Hello, Sooner Nation, OU Insider subscribers, Coach Brian Clinton enthusiasts, people who are afraid that the OU football program is collapsing on itself. This probably isn't the podcast for you, but we'll get into some of the issues.
Brujo groupies.
Brujo groupies, yes. Brujo groupies, go ahead and show your shirt to the YouTube to the YouTube listeners. I've heard they're a good band.
Yeah,
I've heard they're a good band.
They are. I like them.
This is the podcast for you. This is another episode of the Oklahoma Drill, a podcast fueled by OU Insider and the Rivals Network. I am Jesse Crittenden, and I am joined by Brujo's number one fan, Brian Clinton. Brian, that's a good shirt. That's a good shirt.
Man. I appreciate it.
I'm assuming you've gotten all kinds of autograph requests. People want, people admiring the shirt. I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah. It's. I'm having to beat them off with a stick at my front door. I'm having to keep them away at bay. They want the shirt. I said, sorry, it's one of one. There will be more out to come. So, yeah, appreciate the shirt, man. I got a onesie in there for little Bennett too, but he is currently asleep, and I'm gonna let him stay that way for now. But he'll make a cameo at some point.
Well, I'll say for full transparency, for people who don't know, Brujo is my band. I'm in the band with my brother and our friends Alex and Wes. And Brian, you so nicely asked for both a shirt and a onesie to support the band. Our drummer Alex handles all the merch stuff. I'm not skeptical about the onesie, but I was curious if it was going to happen, and he delivered it, and it looks good, man.
Yep. Nailed it.
It looks good. Great. Yeah. So appreciate the support, and people should go and check us out on Spotify and everywhere else. That is the end of my shameless plugging of my band on a podcast that is actually about OU football. And Brian, we have not talked since OU's 25-15 loss to Tennessee over the weekend. Oh my God, so much has happened in the scope of 4 days, 5 days, however many days it is. If you want a lesson in how much things can change in 4 weeks or 1 week, a weekend for a team across college football, this is the weekend to do it, because not only did OU lose its season opener, we've got a quarterback change, Brian. Jackson Arnold is on the bench. In comes true freshman Michael Hawkins. Now, Brent Venables didn't let the decision hang over the week. He announced the decision on Monday and talked about it on Tuesday in a 54-minute press conference that I highly encourage everyone to go over to the OU Insider YouTube channel and go watch it, because it is a press conference for the ages, which included a 19-minute opening statement that discussed everything from the change at quarterback to his frustrations with the offense, to things they got to get better at, all kinds of stuff. Brian, I don't think it was very controversial to start Michael Hawkins.
No,
I do think it's a discussion we should have just about the change. And obviously it happened towards the end of the second quarter. I think there's a discussion to have about the change, about what we saw from Hawkins in the second half, about what reasonable expectations should be for Michael Hawkins moving forward. What should reasonable expectations for Jackson Arnold be? But look, you and I were both at the game. You were on the field. I was in the press box. We did all of the post-game stuff afterwards with all the players and coaches. I don't know, Brian. I know it's been a few days now, but I guess just from a general perspective, I mean, this was the move to make, right? And I don't know, did we see enough? Not enough. What'd you see from Michael Hawkins that either gives you confidence or questions? Either of them. Just fire off. Fire away.
Well, I mean, I think at this point, you gave Jackson Arnold 4 games to essentially prove that he could progress in the areas that you would expect a young quarterback to progress. We're not talking about going from being able to analyze the entire field or parts of the field in 4 games. I mean, you're just not going to be able to do that. but just to show some progress, especially in the decision making aspect of the game, which is ultimately what ended up costing him the job there. It absolutely is the move you had to make. If you're the coaching staff, it's the move you had to make. Um, I've gone back, and I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but I've gone back and watched the game up twice. And the second time through, I really slowed things down on the offensive side of the ball and tried to just kind of see things from Arnold's perspective as much as I could. Ran through it like half speed, and there were at least Jesse, at least seven or eight, and this is in a half. This is in one half of football. There were at least seven or eight instances where he makes the right read and hands the football off, um, and the running back is to the third level, like it's blocked up, and like I don't know, I don't know what else to say other than this is the offense, this is the system that he has been running since high school, and so that's concerning to me. That says we're overthinking things the entire time that we're out there. The game's moving too fast. It is there's too much going on, and when you have a young player that is thinking on the football field, kind of like Coach Venables alluded to yesterday in his press conference, we need to give these guys, he said, they need to give these guys less autonomy, especially young guys. Don't let them think, well, if this happens, this is what I should do. No, they just need to know what to do. And you tell them that. And of course, it was in a different, he was talking in a different context, but the point still stands. I think at this point, you could see the wheels turning every time that Jackson Arnold took a snap, and that's not good. That's not good for an offense that's got a bad offensive line right now. That's not good for a unit that's got a lot of wide receivers missing, and so the move absolutely was the right move. Now, as far as what to expect, I think that's a tough question because it's going to be so hard to truly evaluate Michael Hawkins if the offensive line is inconsistent, if the wide receivers that he's throwing to are inconsistent. I have talked to a couple of people, one in particular who believes that Michael Hawkins might be the most cerebral freshman quarterback that Oklahoma has potentially ever had. Understands and processes things incredibly fast for a guy his age, and that goes back to what we heard in the spring. That he was just very, very good about getting the ball out quickly and well above playing well above his age whenever he got the opportunities. And we saw that. We saw some of that in the game against Tennessee. I was pleasantly surprised by how calm he was. You didn't see him put the ball in harm's way. If he was under duress, he got rid of the ball. He didn't just chunk it while still in the tackle box. He didn't have any things that were even close to intentional grounding. He didn't have any of those panic moments that we had almost grown so used to seeing from Jackson Arnold. Um, and that's promising for me. That says he's confident in what he's doing. The staff's not asking him to do too much, and he was able to move the ball. And so the connection that he had with Jaquez Petaway, all three of Petaway's receptions were from Mike Hawkins, correct?
Yes. And
Okay.
Petaway's 46-yard reception in the fourth quarter was the second longest pass play of the year,
Yep.
1 yard fewer than Jalil Farouk's.
Yes.
And his 46-yard catch and his 19-yard catch were the only two receptions the entire game that went 15 yards or more.
Yes. Okay.
The entire game.
That sounded about right. So to me, that in and of itself kind of spells the story. I think the ceiling of the offense is higher right now with Hawkins simply because I think he's able to process things better, more quickly. I think he might align with the current group. And the other thing is his release is so much faster. It's going to help that offensive line out. I would not be surprised if at all there are some changes in the way that they block some things up this week, but I think you're going to see less issues with the quarterback being under duress simply because he's going to get rid of the ball a lot quicker. There were times when Arnold would hold the ball a little too long. So I do think the offense is going to be trending in the right direction. Now, is this going to be a top 25 scoring offense just like Oklahoma fans have been used to? No, I don't think so. I think you would be setting yourself up for failure if you believe that Oklahoma was just automatically going to start averaging 38, 40 points a game. I don't think that's reasonable. I think there's too many question marks, and a lot of that isn't even on Michael Hawkins himself. He's one of the 11, and the other 11 haven't been consistent, or the other 10 haven't been consistent. So um, I do think the offense will be better, and I do think if there was a time outside of being going into the season, this is the time that it had to happen. It had to happen coming into this game because Auburn is struggling, just like Oklahoma is. You have a bye week after this, and then you get into Texas, and the rest of that slate there that comes following that is pretty brutal. So this is the time that you have to have it happen. You almost kind of wish that it would have been at the beginning of the season, but that really wasn't an option given everything that was going on. And I think that Hawkins is going to have an opportunity to be successful, but it's kind of a wait and see thing, I guess.
Completely agree with all of that. And I
Sorry
think
for the ramble.
no, I'm about to throw a lot of stuff at you, so I apologize because there's a couple things that you said in there that I also wanted to respond to. I think the most important part of what you said is that this offense isn't going to be a top 25 offense. I think before we say anything else, I think we need to say a couple of things. And the small disclaimer is that Tennessee's defense is really good.
Yes, it is.
So that's one. I don't think you can have any kind of reasonable expectations that this offense is going to be even average the rest of the way. I don't. And as much as I agree with you that I think Michael Hawkins gives you a better chance to win and increases the ceiling on this offense, what we saw on Saturday is the result of an offense that is in complete chaos and dysfunction from top to bottom. Nothing is lining up in terms of play calling, in terms of schemes, in terms of formations, in terms of the personnel, in terms of the decision making. All of it, none of it lines up with each other.
Right.
None of it does. And I don't think Jackson Arnold has been given the fairest shake. I don't. I mean, you're walking in. We already knew this was going to be hard for him, right? A new OC.
Correct. Yes.
A new OC. Injuries on the offensive line and at wide receiver, walking into the first year in the SEC isn't necessarily the fairest shake. And you knew there were going to be some ups and downs.
Yeah.
And both things can be true. Jackson was just one part of the problem, now a big part, but one part of the problem. And also, these weren't just regular ups and downs, man, for a young guy.
Yeah.
Not only to mention what you said about the bad reads where if the right decision is made, maybe OU makes something on play X or play Y or play Z. To me, I think all you need to know, and the two turnovers before the last one were bad enough. That throw was bad. You can't have that turnover inside the 5 after your defense forces a takeaway. Can't have that. Can't have that. That third turnover to me is everything you need to know. The backwards pass, the backwards lateral.
Especially given the context that we have now.
Yes. I was shocked. I'll be honest with you. I was shocked that Brent admitted and acknowledged after the game that there wasn't even a pass option on that play.
Right.
That was a stunning level of transparency. And I commend Brent for it.
Absolutely.
I'm not, that isn't a criticism at all. I'm shocked that he said that because that tells you all of this is mental for him.
Correct.
All of it. I mean, that is It looked like a JV play.
It did. And
That's what it looked like.
I no, and I think that right there, like if you want to summarize Jackson's like the entire struggle of his, as you said, it's not really normal ups and downs. To me, and tell me if this is just totally off base, but to me, it felt like from the very first snap against Temple, from the very first snap of the season, Jackson has been pressing to prove that what happened in the game against Arizona is not who he is. And unfortunately, him pressing this entire time to make things happen is what is helping lead to the reads that should be there. I mean, because to me, you hand the football off and let the guy get the 5 yards that are there. That's what keeps the offense rolling. But every time that you pull it and you're trying to play, I almost worry that he got into a mindset of where he felt like he had to play hero ball, and that is not at all what Oklahoma needed, and it really hurt them against Tennessee.
I think that's probably part of it. I would also just say I don't think he's been comfortable at any point this season.
Agreed.
I also think the buzz about Mike Hawkins was real starting in the spring. Mm-hmm. It really heated up in the fall.
Yeah.
That he looked really good. That was a real thing.
Yeah.
I just think I think he's looked all 4 games like he's not comfortable. And even that Arizona game, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Was he perfect that game? No. A couple of bad throws, couple of bad decisions.
But he looked But he looked a lot more comfortable.
He did. And to me, when we say ups and downs as a player, ups and downs as a young player, to me, that Arizona game was like the perfect encapsulation of that.
Correct. Yes.
Really good moments, bad moments, but wasn't afraid to air it out. I mean, Brian, he threw for 400 yards that game. Yep. 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. But if Jalil Farouk doesn't fumble that ball in the second half, OU probably wins that game.
Yep.
And to me, when we say ups and downs, I think that game is what you point to. Yes. When you look at the stats through the first 4 weeks, this isn't ups and downs. This isn't a below average offense. Brian, this OU offense through 4 weeks has, by every statistical measure, one of the worst in football.
Yep.
By every stat. It's not just bad. It's anemically bad.
Right.
Brian, they rank 101st in rushing offense. They rank 115th in passing offense. I think they rank 114th in total offense. Brian, they're averaging 4.3 yards per play. It's 116th in the country.
Yeah.
They're averaging 9.1 yards per completion. That's 126th in the country.
Right. Yep.
Like, Jackson's completed on 12 of his 36 passes with a target depth of 10 yards or more. 12 of 36. Like, that's not just bad. That's an offense that's not going to win you 6 games.
Right.
Like, and again, that's why I said it with the disclaimer that Tennessee's a really good defense. Auburn is not going to present that kind of test this weekend. But this isn't just normal ups and downs. Mm-mm. And it's not all Jackson's fault. He has not been given a full deck. But and I've had a couple of people mention to me that, we had talked about the Jackson Hawkins conundrum. And I think you and I both said it wasn't time to pull Jackson. And I stand by that wholeheartedly. That based on what we had at the time, Saturday changed the game completely.
Yep.
And this isn't to say the first 3 weeks were good. Honestly, everything that happened on Saturday was kind of the buildup of what we saw through the first 3 weeks.
Yes.
But OU won those games ultimately. And we said the first test is going to be against Tennessee. How does he do? And with the factoring in of all those injuries and all the play dysfunction, and I think it's reasonable to question some of Seth Luttrell's game plan and his schemes and all of that stuff. Jackson Arnold, you can't have that. You just can't. Right. You can't have those plays.
Yeah.
So it's a really difficult situation. It's a really difficult situation to put a true freshman into.
Yes.
I mean, oh my goodness. But
it is. And Before we move on to anything else, I think we need to sit for just a second because you brought it up, and I want to reiterate. Um, Simply plugging in Michael Hawkins is not going to fix Oklahoma's offensive issues. That it's going to take wholesale changes
Yes.
to scheme. It's going to take wholesale changes to obviously execution, which has been pointed to a number of times, and that is true. First play of the game, the pick six series that I went for on Monday over on OU Insider. Very first play of the game. You get a snap. You get a good snap from Branson Hickman there, and the handoff is clean on the counter play to Javonte Barnes. He picks up at least 30. Like it's there. It's there. And the bad snap throws all of it off. Where I really lost because I want to give coaches the benefit of the doubt. Like that's and to me that's what I want to do because I don't even pretend to understand what it's like to call a game at that level. Like doing it in high school is one thing. Doing it in JV is one thing. Doing it in front of 86,000 people against an SEC team is another thing entirely. So I don't know what it's like. But what I do know is when you're backed up at your own 2-yard line and you're in 11 personnel against a bare front with 7 people in the box for Tennessee who has been whooping you up front all game, you don't run split zone or zone slice, which you don't run a zone slice play and bring an extra guy into the box that has been terrible blocking on the perimeter and allow another person to come into the box as a defender and tighten it up and then hand the ball off out of shotgun 5 yards deep on the 2-yard line. Like it's that play in and of itself, whenever I was rewatching the game, it was at that point whenever I said, okay, there's a disconnect. So whether it's between coaches and players, whether it's between head coach and coordinators, or whatever it is, there is a disconnect on the offensive side of the ball because that play, there's a time and place for zone slice. I like it. I like split zone. I think that there's opportunities for the kinds of running backs that Oklahoma has on its roster. But when you're backed up on your own 2-yard line, never. Like it just doesn't make sense. That play does not make sense in that. And Brent Venables even said, I don't like the play design at all. It's really frustrating because it falls on Jackson's shoulders. Like he certainly did not help the situation. And there's people out there that are saying, if Michael Hawkins started the whole game, Oklahoma wins the game. Maybe, who knows? Maybe. We don't know that.
Maybe.
But it certainly doesn't fix all the issues because Jackson didn't call that play. And that's just one of many. I'm sure there's so many other situations out there that could even further the point that I'm trying to make. But there is a disconnect somewhere at the staff level, and I think unless that changes, Mike Hawkins isn't going to have much more success, if any, than Jackson Arnold did.
Well, and I think what you said to start about there have to be wholesale changes. Like I think you can kind of look at it like this. Like Jackson Arnold was part of the problems through 4 weeks, and the change had to be made. But yes, at the same time, replacing it with Michael Hawkins is only step one of finding that solution.
Yep.
And that's why I said ultimately with everything you just said, I think you can be high on Michael Hawkins, and I think we both are. But I don't think it's reasonable to expect this offense to even turn into an average unit. I just don't, with everything you just said. And the fact, like, you would have loved to have found these problems, these structural problems during the spring. Mm-hmm. This ain't the spring.
Nope.
This is week 5
Yep.
of an SEC schedule where you're already 3-1, your own one conference play. Thank God you get to go to Auburn this weekend against a team that is in more chaos than OU is somehow. Then you got Texas at Missouri, which, yes, Missouri has not looked very great. They haven't. Still going to be a tough game. At Missouri, with how this offense has looked, not an easy game. You got to go
At
to
Ole
Ole
Miss.
Miss. Got to play
Best
Alabama.
defense in the country right now, by
Yep.
the way, statistically.
Got to play Bama.
Yep.
Got to play LSU. I'm not saying all those teams are incredible, the best we've ever seen, but like this can fall apart really quickly. And and the summary of Brent Venables' press conference, which there's no way to properly summarize it, he said a lot.
Yeah.
But they've got to simplify this offense way down. I mean, way down. He basically said we've got to start telling the players what to do. We can't he basically said when it came to RPOs, I don't really know if they can run very many RPOs moving forward. I don't think they can have a ton of option plays. I don't think they can have a ton of option routes. And part of that is because the offensive line isn't blocking enough consistently. And part of that is the injuries to the wide receiver room. And part of it is the inability to run the ball. And part of it is that you have true freshman quarterback. But this offense I think is about to become very vanilla. Because when they're trying to add any complexity to it, they're failing.
Yeah.
And now you're trying to throw a true freshman quarterback into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean,
yes. The only, and I don't really even want to call it pushback because I don't want to come off as if I'm sunshine pumping, because that's not what I'm going for here. I think that there are going to be struggles. That's part of putting a guy in a situation like this that really doesn't have a whole lot of experience whatsoever. The good news is for Oklahoma, there were opportunities there to be had if the right decision was made. And to this point, it does seem as if Michael Hawkins' decision making is in a better place to put Oklahoma in successful situations than Jackson Arnold's was. The other thing that I think is easy to forget is, yes, Jackson Arnold is a sophomore, but he really isn't that much more experienced than Michael Hawkins was.
No,
as far as a college quarterback goes. Now, it really is going to me, my takeaway from Brent's press conference was the guys that the change that was made because the decision-making process was not right because there was too many things going on. And I think you nailed that on the head. They're going to have to simplify some things. What I do have just the smallest bit of hope is Michael Hawkins seemed to, the longer the game went along, he seemed to go through his progressions and did a really good job of taking what the defense was giving him. And it kept Oklahoma on the field. And so if they can do that, I think the best thing that Oklahoma could be offensively to match with the defense that they have, which is championship level, would be an offense that's methodical, that can keep the ball for long periods of time and be efficient and score at the end of the drive and continually put pressure on the other offense. And it's not going to be in the way that Oklahoma fans are used to seeing. So when you have an offense that can possess the football and a defense that is really good at getting off the field, it just maximizes the opportunities. And I think Oklahoma could score 28 points in the rest of their games this season and win every single one of them by scoring just 28 points. I think the defense is that good. But can the offense do that? Like that's going to be the question.
No, and so when I say I don't think it's reasonable to expect the offense to be average, there is a big gap between where OU is right now and average.
Correct.
With a lot of room to grow. And
yes.
and I think the main thing is everything you just said. Look, the defense is the strength of this team. It is the identity of this team.
Unquestioned. Yeah.
That's how OU is going to win games. Is
Yep.
its defense. OU could have won that game against Tennessee behind their defense. And the way you do that is by scoring inside the 5-yard line when the defense gets a takeaway. And then when the defense gets another takeaway later in the quarter and you've got the ball at the 40, you at least get a field goal. At least.
Yeah.
But like that's how like it's going to be the defense leading the way and the offense taking advantage of what the defense is doing. That's the pathway to doing that. And by doing that is, and what that means by doing that is everything you just said. It's keeping things simple. It's Michael Hawkins not doing anything outside of his comfort zone, not forcing anything. And that was really, people are going to point to some of the scrambles he had, which that's one thing he's going to be able to add to this offense is when the play breaks down, and it's going to a lot with the way this offensive line is blocking, he can take off. And that should be the message to him is now I don't think you want Hawkins running 25 times a game by any means.
Not at all. No.
But I think the message to him is, look, drop back, go through your progressions. If after 2 or 3 or 4 seconds, you don't have something, if you see a pathway to run, take off.
Yep.
Get 4 yards.
Yep.
If you can.
And
get down. And I hope they make some plays where some bootleg style plays or where they get him outside the pocket.
Yep.
And the goal on that should be you've got 2 reads probably. You're looking at this guy in the flat and you're looking at someone maybe a little bit further down the field. If one of them isn't open within a couple seconds, take off and throw it away.
Yep.
And all of that would be an improvement over what OU has done offensively through the first 4 games and specifically the first 14 quarters.
Yep.
All of that would be better.
Yep.
So, and I think now the offense in the second half against Tennessee didn't become magically better. The numbers still weren't great, but I think it did provide a framework for how this team can move the ball, even with the injuries that they have and even with the struggles that they're having. Yeah. I do wonder. So we know, look, Nick Anderson and Andrew Anthony were technically available on Saturday. Nick Anderson, I think, played 9 snaps.
Yeah.
Then left the game and didn't come back. He didn't look great when he was on the field.
Nope.
Andrew Anthony didn't play. I got to be honest, Brian. Brent was actually asked about this earlier on the SEC teleconference about the long-term health of both of them. And Brent basically didn't answer.
Yeah.
Which part of it, again, is we've got these new availability reports, which we're recording this before the first one of the week drops tonight at 7:30.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be in a mindset with those guys that if you get them back, great. But I don't know if you can plan to get them back, at least.
No.
Not for a bit. The fact that Angelo Anthony's played 5 snaps and that all came in the season opener and he hasn't played since then.
That's not a great sign.
It's not. It's discouraging. The fact that Nick Anderson didn't play for the first time until last weekend and then left the game in the first quarter. And now you've got Deion Burks and Taylor Tatum who left the game with injuries on top of that. And I think Deion will play. I'm a little more skeptical about Tatum. That shot didn't look good that he took.
Yeah.
And that makes me concerned about. I mean, I have all kinds of concerns about the offense this weekend, but that makes me even more concerned about the running game because Sawchuk just hasn't looked good, and I don't think Sam Franklin can see the field. Period. But I think he showed potential with Petaway, who played more snaps against Tennessee than he did the first 3 weeks combined.
Mm-hmm.
And you hope Burks can play. And I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know there's so many questions on the offensive side of the ball. It's ridiculous. Sticking with the receivers for right now, like I think here's what you almost hope the offensive staff looks at that situation and says, we've operated without Nick Anderson, and we've operated without Andrew Anthony through these first 4 weeks for the most part. Don't know what the practice snaps have looked like for those guys. I have no idea. But if their long-term health is in question, I think the best thing that you can do is allow younger guys that are showing some promise, and they are getting better. The catch on 3rd and 1, by the way, absolutely beautiful throw from Mike
Yeah.
Hawkins across the from the other hash. Just
That
gorgeous
was
play.
actually that might have been the best play of the game to me.
It
Not the
was.
46-yarder to pet
No,
away.
it was
I think that was the best
100%.
play of the
I
game.
100% agree with you. That was the biggest play from him. And to me, that showed he understands what he's doing out there. Like this, what you don't just luck into that. Um, and the other thing was is that he has the arm. He's got plenty of arm talent. Like this isn't just a kid that can run around back there.
That ball had zip on it.
Yes, it did. That was a great throw. It was on a rope.
And not easy.
No,
Not an easy
no,
throw.
no. So, but again, you saw Raggins make that catch. That's one a great catch on the move. But we're seeing those guys kind of make the most of their opportunities as they start to grow and learn. Zion Kearney's another guy. He didn't register a catch against Tennessee, but he was. I loved the fact that on that 46-yard catch and run from Petaway, the guy down the field setting things up with blocks is Kearney. Like he's out there on the perimeter blocking. I love that. I think with those guys out for the foreseeable future, we don't know when they'll be back. I think you just let those younger guys really take the practice reps too. Like you don't just hope that we're going to get cleared by Friday and keep those guys out there. You have to let the younger guys really build. And that there's a new guy in the room now too. So
Yeah.
um, which we can get more into that in a second. I think the one thing for the running game, because there are concerns, obviously, there's lots of them with the run game. I think the one thing that you do have going for you if you're Oklahoma, this will be the first week all season long that you have the same 5 guys that
Mm-hmm.
played last week going into the next week. Um, that's promising at least. At least you have continuity. Like that's one thing that this team has not had at all is continuity on the offensive line. And so you have that. Um, there is reason to believe that you just played the best defensive line you're going to play all season long. And if that's the case, I think that this, hopefully progress can be made. And there were opportunities in the run game. And so if they can figure some things out, I really hope the percentage of inside zone plays that we see run are just like drastically down for the rest of the year. I mean, like this has to be the stopping point when you realize guard center guard is not what you need it to be to run that against SEC fronts. But yeah, continuity is good, I guess. I think is a good thing. I don't even know at this point, but that is a positive. God, Tatum's got to get back though. If he's out this week, I did like what we saw from Javante Barnes. He doesn't have a whole lot of room to operate in some situations. There were some bright spots there, but yeah, Tatum absolutely is the guy that's got the highest ceiling, and you really can't afford for him to be out very long.
No, and I think if you're looking at hope from an offensive line standpoint, I think you have to hope not only that you mentioned continuity, but I think you have to hope that Tennessee is the best defensive line you play all year, and that just by default they will look better, and then hopefully with some schematic changes and some simplifications
Mm-hmm.
that things will look better.
Yeah,
Um, I'm really high on Jacoby Johnson moving to offense. I
I am
asked
too.
Brent. I asked Brent about him yesterday. Um, I compared it to DJ Graham, the DJ Graham situation, which obviously I know those situations are different. But Brent had a lot to say when I brought up DJ Graham.
Yeah,
Um, had a lot to say. DJ Graham, poor DJ Graham got thrown under the bus a little bit.
he did. He did.
Uh, um, but I think what I did like that he said is not like he said a lot of things, but one, he's just a great athlete and the determination is there. I think the motivation is there. Also, I think he's just going to help more on perimeter blocking because he's just a tall, big
Physical guy.
athlete.
Yep.
And he even said, to really be a good defensive player, you have to understand offenses by default. He said we actually talk more about offenses than we do about defenses in the defensive room.
Whenever he said that, just a quick tangent. I I got close with Alan Trimble, former Jinx head coach. He's since passed, but got close to him in high school. Was friends with his daughter, and um, he knew I wanted to be a football coach. And he asked me what side of the ball are you interested in? He said offense. He said, well, best advice I could give you, you need to start studying defense. He's like, don't even worry about offense. You've got to study the other side of the ball. So like as soon as I heard that, like it just took me
Yeah.
right back. So love that.
Yeah. I don't know if I would expect him to come in and play a heavy dose of snaps
No,
this
probably not first
weekend,
week. No.
but I think you're hoping that the natural upside that Hawkins should be able to give this offense, coupled with how good this OU defense has been, which it's honestly a shame that we haven't talked about the defense as much. And part of that is because the offense has just been so bad that it's kind of overshadowed how great this defense is. And I even wrote this. I wrote a story on Monday that this defense is done rebuilding. It's rebuilt. It's ready to win big games right now.
Yep.
And I think you're hoping that the defense. I think your plan for this weekend, right, is for the defense to lead the way and just stifle Auburn's offense, and that OU's offense can take advantage of that enough to score enough points to win. Because this Auburn team, whew, it's been pretty rough through the first 4 weeks. That game against Arkansas, all the way around, both teams were bad,
Right?
were really bad. And if you're going to make a quarterback change like this, it's like you said earlier, it's a good thing it's happening this weekend. Yeah, it's tough that it's going to be on the road, but outside of Mississippi State, honestly, maybe Vanderbilt, who actually doesn't look awful. Respectable. This is the team that you want to play, provided we all get down there because of the incoming hurricane.
Yeah.
That's not going to be fun. Safe travels to anybody.
Yeah.
Going down to Auburn. What do you see from this game?
So
what are you looking at?
The first thing is turnovers. Like that's really what has killed Auburn to this point. I believe they ranked first in turnovers lost in the country. I think they're right up there near the top. Obviously, Oklahoma defensively is right up there near the top in turnovers forced. So that's not a great matchup for Auburn. But what is interesting is the offense is explosive and does they do have big plays when they're able to keep the ball out of the defense's hands. Like they have been as far as total offense goes. They do put yardage up. They are able to move the ball well. The interesting part about it is though, I think you kind of have a similar situation at quarterback where they're making changes and trying to figure things out, except they went to the freshman last week. I don't even remember how many turnovers. I think he had 3 first half turnovers and they had to go back to Peyton Thorne, and then Peyton Thorne threw.
Who do you think they start? Who do you think they start this weekend? Because they haven't announced a starter yet, right?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
If it's me, if it was me, if I was Hugh Freeze, I think you start the young kid and hope and give him the opportunity to learn, because Peyton Thorne was I hate to call it this, but it kind of like a 1-year rental at quarterback. Like you kind of had like you hope that this guy can win you some games on his way out the door, whereas the freshman, you hopefully give him an opportunity to start learning now. It is baptism by fire, but I think as far as what's best for your team going forward, that's what I would do. But it just depends. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they started Thorne with how things went last week. It probably wouldn't be a great thing if he had 3 first half turnovers against Arkansas and then he replicates that against Oklahoma. It probably wouldn't be great for his confidence. But it's going to be an interesting game for Oklahoma on a number of things, because I think while Auburn certainly is not Tennessee. I think those two teams are in different echelons right now. Um, Auburn is comparable to Oklahoma in athleticism and guys on the roster, in body types, and I think they're a greater challenge than any of Oklahoma's first three games were on a neutral site, and they're going to be even that much more inside Jordan Hare. I think that that's going to be just a tough environment. Oklahoma under Brent Venables has not been great on the road. Now, who knows what it looks like this year? We haven't seen it yet, but that'll be something to watch. What I'm really looking for from this team is when you've lost a game like you did last week. It was emotional, like a big. I mean, just a crazy uh, showing out from the fan base. Like it was just really, really awesome. Um, does this team continue to understand who it is identity wise? Like, does the defense still understand going into this game? Hey, we shoulder this. You guys are going to get up to speed. We trust you. Like, I just don't want to like if you're an Oklahoma fan, the last thing you want to see is bad body language between the two units because as long as they can stick, which we saw, they stuck together. Guys are encouraging one another last week. Throughout the whole game, like the body language was good. Like it was still positive from the defense, which hats off to those guys because the offense continued to put them in bad situations and they just went out and did their job. Like that's awesome. That has to continue. And that's where on the road in a hostile environment, if this team can really galvanize and you can find a way for the offense to just be efficient. It doesn't even have to be explosive, just be efficient. And they continue to know who they are. I think it's a good thing for Oklahoma going forward. It's going to be a test though. I don't think anybody who believes Oklahoma's just going to walk in and blow Auburn out. I mean, Vegas has this game under 3 points, and typically they're right on stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma figured out a way to make this game a comfortable win in the end. But it's certainly going to take them walking in with the right attitude and right mindset.
Number one stat to watch, and you touched on it, turnovers. Auburn has 14 turnovers on the year. That is more than every FBS team. More than every FBS team. 14.
Do you have the split on fumbles?
They've thrown 8 interceptions between their two quarterbacks.
Okay.
OU has forced 12 takeaways. That's tied for most in the country. So the team that's the best at forcing takeaways is playing the team that's the worst at taking care of the ball. That's the number one stat to watch.
Not great, Bob.
Nope. And the other thing to watch is, I think, again, the running game, just because as unimpressive as Auburn has been at times this season, their rush defense has been really good. I think they held Arkansas to around 3 yards a carry, and Arkansas tried to run the hell out of the ball, and it didn't go super well. And that's going to be a focus not only for OU, a running game that's struggled, but if you're going to be without Taylor Tatum, which is possible. Because it's clear that before Tatum got hurt, he was not only going to be a part of the game plan, he was going to be a major
big
part of the game plan. Those are the two things for me to watch. God willing, that game happens this weekend and everyone stays safe from the hurricane. 2:30 on Saturday at ABC. I expect OU to win. I don't think it's a given. I would say this is a must win.
Yes.
Last weekend wasn't a must win. It was a hope to win. Not that again, every game is as important as the next game. Air quotes. They are. You know what I'm saying. You've got to win this game.
Yep.
Heading into the bye week, Texas coming out of the bye week. This is about as easy as it's going to get in conference play. Is this game this weekend?
Wild.
Yep. I think you got to win it. Otherwise, if they lose this game and the offense still doesn't look good and you're staring at Texas, Missouri, Ole Miss, even South Carolina, who
that's not going to be an easy game.
That's not going to be an easy
they're
game.
They're good in the wrong places if you're Oklahoma.
Yeah. I don't care where that game's being played. That's not going to be an easy game.
No. Nope.
Um, I mean, if you win this game this weekend, doesn't matter how you do it. If you win this game, things feel a lot better. If you lose and you go into the bye week 3-2 with the schedule that OU has coming up, things
Mm,
start to feel pretty low
yep.
pretty quickly. I think you'd have to start wondering, and I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. There's a lot of football that can happen as we've seen. And just like we said in the preseason, this wide receiver room looked like maybe the best in the country. And now it's like, what is OU going to do at receiver? That's how much things can change. But
Yeah.
you lose this game, you're like, man, what's the roadmap to 7-5? What is it? Right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, you would be very hard pressed to find 4 more wins on that schedule if you were to lose this one. I mean, no thanks. Yeah, this is this is a very important game. Given how last week went, this is a very important game. Um, I don't think the staff is going to have any issue keeping guys focused coming into this week. I think they know the importance of this game, but it is you really are starting to feel the 50-50 every week in SEC play. Like you really don't know which way it's going to go, and they're only one game in, and so yeah, you've got to win this one. If not, really start wondering about some things. So it'll be interesting.
let's do a quick stock up. Give me a couple of guys that we won't worry about stock down. We've already that's let's just do stock up. We know who the obvious stock down candidates are. Give me a couple of stock ups.
Uh, Stock up Mike Hawkins pretty easily. Going into the week, starting quarterback. That's kind of feels like a gimme. So I'll go Jaquez Petaway. Like I think that's a guy that really I think he could really benefit from the quarterback change. He feels it seems as if he has a little better chemistry with Hawkins. He looked good. He looked really good with the ball in his hand. I mean the first time uh that was honestly the most open space we've seen a wide receiver, most separation we've seen from a wide receiver this year. And he was actually in open space with which we haven't seen Deion Burks be able to get to open space yet. So my hope is that's a guy that can create some space that gives you somebody else that you have to watch out for. Maybe that makes teams less. Maybe that lessens teams' abilities to bracket Burks and we see more open field from them. But yeah, Jaquez Petaway, really excited about what we saw from him last week.
Love the picks. You went 2 offense. I'm going to go 2 defense. First one is Lewis Carter,
Mm,
who had his welcome to the SEC moment with that third down tackle for loss early in the first quarter. I mean, he
yeah.
laid a hit
Yes, he did.
on that play and made the read perfectly. Saw the play the whole way on that swing pass.
Gorgeous play.
Yep. And not only that, he played 22 snaps against Tennessee. That was more than he played the first 3 weeks combined. He finished with the second highest Pro Football Focus grade. I think he finished with the highest tackling grade on the team. And considering OU hadn't really, I mean, Kendall Dolby hadn't went out of the game yet, and considering the defense hasn't had a ton of injuries,
Mm-hmm.
considering that it was the first SEC game, he played 22 snaps and played well. Also, I think he tied with Trace Ford for the most tackles for loss on the team. He had 6 solo tackles. Lewis Carter, man.
Yep.
The second one is unfortunately with Kendall Dolby out, which we didn't really get a chance to touch on that much. That just sucks.
It does.
Easy
I
kid
hope.
to root for.
Yeah. I hearing that it was a dislocation like does help his future prospects, but God, he's such a likable person, and I hate that for him. Just hard to see.
It is. But because he's hurt, I'm going to go with Samuel Omasigo, a guy that I asked Brent about him earlier today on the teleconference. He said, you're going to see more of a role from Samuel Omasigo at that cheetah spot. Played pretty well for a second-year guy through the first 4 weeks. He played 25 snaps against Tulane, then played 31 against Tennessee, and I think he's going to have to play more this weekend. And I thought he played pretty well for the most part against Tennessee, and OU's going to need him.
Yeah.
Samuel Masigo, a guy that we talked a lot about in the spring.
I have I had two defensive guys ready too,
Throw
and
them at me
neither
real
one of them.
quick.
Yeah,
Throw them at me.
the first one is Robert Spears Jennings, and I think there is an argument that he might have been through the first 4 weeks the best player on the team. Period.
Yeah.
Like he's been incredible. He
Yeah.
has been absolutely incredible. He has played at another level. And then Trace Ford
Was great.
out of a 2 point stance is a monster. Like if that's the guy that you're gonna get out of Trace Ford for the rest of the season, good luck. Like good luck with the rest of the defensive line and that guy. I mean, he looked he really it felt like he really elevated his play. And he was in space a lot. Like, did you notice
Yeah.
how often he was in space a lot? So both of those guys looked really good. And I felt like needed to be brought up.
Yeah. Led the team in sacks, tied with Carter, tackles for loss, had the highest Pro Football Focus grade. It took a year and a half, but that was a coming out party for him. That was real. And I think
Yep.
the staff finally figured out. I mean, he was really effective because the defense was running a lot of 3-man fronts, which we
Yes.
had not seen that much through the
Yep.
first 3 weeks. And I actually think that unlocked some stuff for him
It did.
specifically.
Absolutely. He's faster than I thought he would be in open space.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked really good. Like it was almost one of those moments where it was like, who's 30? Like,
Yeah.
is that the same guy?
I actually made the joke, just full transparency. We were in the press box and typically me and a small of the other group of reporters in the press box. Once the full team comes out to do warmups, we'll go through the depth chart and see who's on the field, make sure who's suited up, who's not. And we got to Trace Ford, and I actually made the joke. I was like, I keep on forgetting Trace Ford's on the team. And then he made me look like
there you go.
He made me look like
you.
an idiot. Yeah, he did. So good on you, Trace Ford. Brian, that's going to do it for us in this episode of the Oklahoma Drill. Appreciate everybody tuning in as always. Brian, appreciate you being Brujo's #1 fan as always. Appreciate you guys liking and subscribing to the OU Insider YouTube channel. If you haven't done that yet, you should go ahead and do that. If you're not a VIP member over at ouinsider.com, plenty of content over there that you won't find here. Never a better time to sign up than right now before the four of us, me, Brandon, Parker, and Brian, head to Auburn, Alabama this weekend, God willing, because of the storms. Anybody that's traveling out there, safe travels. We'll have you covered from all angles during the game, after the game. No better place to be than OU Insider. We'll be back next week to break it all down. Until then, we'll see you next time.